NFL Week 5 Monday Night Football pits the 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs at the somehow, someway 3-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll break it all down for you right here. We got to figure out who exactly these Jags are because I, for one, can't really believe that this team is 3-1. We'll talk about those AFC South futures because if you are a believer, you might be looking at a Jags bet there in that market. I got to see if indeed the Chiefs are back after that win against the Ravens. And of course, we'll talk best bets for this thing as well. Welcome to the channel. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. I am Ninja. He is Tony Farmer. Let us know what your Monday Night Football bet is in the comment section below. Tony, I talked about it. The Jags, not just 3-1 straight up, but 3-1 against the spread as well. What would you say, in your opinion, in this small sample size, is the DNA of this team in your eyes? And I know you've watched them closely because they just beat our 49ers. So who is this Jags team right now? It's just been weird because, like, when you look at a star player like a Brian Thomas Jr., he's done diddly squat this season. So if he starts figuring it out, maybe this is a tricky team. But who are the Jags right now?
I think first and foremost, they're a young team. They have one of the youngest rosters in football. It's still early in the Liam Cohen era, but you have to give him passing grades so far. He's number 2, by the way, in Coach of the Year odds. Like, he looks good. He looks comfortable in his role. The players seem to be playing for him. I look at the locker room speech after that win against the 49ers. I listen to these players when they're interviewed talking about their head coach. It's the opposite of what we're seeing in Tennessee, where you can tell those players don't want to be playing for Callahan. So there's a lot to be excited about, and I think a lot of room for improvement. You mentioned Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't even gotten going yet. So the ceiling is very high. That said, they're 3-1 and they're on pace for 12 or 13 wins this season. I don't think they're going to keep that pace up. They're going to come crashing down to earth. They're going to be humbled, I think, a couple times in this season, partly because they're so young, and partly because I think they are playing over their skis a little bit.
So going into this week, going into week 5, the Jags have an NFL leading 13 takeaways, 9 interceptions, plus 9 turnover diff. Do you think this Jags team, and specifically on that defensive side, could be, for lack of a better term, a potential antidote versus the Chiefs' sputtering offense? Or is this Jags defense the beneficiary of a pretty weak schedule so far?
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. On paper, this Jags defense is very, very good and has been very impressive this year. But let's review who they've played. They played a banged-up Brock Purdy without his weapons. They had Bryce Young in week 1, C.J. Stroud in the midst of the worst year of his career, and Jake Browning. So they haven't really been tested. This is going to be a measuring stick game against the Chiefs, who looked really good on offense last week, by the way. So I think we're going to learn a lot about this Jaguars defense on Monday night for sure.
Plus 130, Tony, at DraftKings to win the South, which, I don't know. In my opinion, it's a 2-horse race right now with Danny Dimes and the Indianapolis Colts. Feels to me like the price is a bit too short, but what do you say there, Tony?
Honestly, I don't love it. You say it's a 2-horse race, and I see your thinking there. That makes sense. When you look at the standings, that's what you see. I'm not convinced the Texans are completely out of this. They have one of the best defenses in football. They just need that offense to get going. Would you be shocked if all of a sudden C.J. Stroud pulled his head out of the ground and started playing really well and things started to click on offense? If that happens, and I'm not sure it will, but if it does, the Texans will be right back in this thing, in this division. So I think it's like a 2.5-horse race, if you will, and at plus 130 odds, I don't necessarily love it.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if CJ figures it out, but he needs 5 dudes on that offensive line that can give that dude some time to think and process what's going on. And until then, I don't know, man, I'm not buying into the Texans. One of the mismatches here in this Monday Night Football game on the field is going to be Travis Etienne against the Chiefs' run defense. Tony, the Jags' ground game is 11th in EPA per play. PFF has the Jags offensive line ranked 13th going into week 5. Chiefs allow 127 rushing yards per game, 22nd in the NFL, 4.9 rushing yards per attempt, 28 in the NFL. Etienne, plus 135 anytime touchdown. 12.5, Tony, the number for his longest run of the game. Do you think, given the matchup here and how well Etienne has started the season, that he might be a good player to target in prop markets?
I think he'll be a pretty popular selection for player props on Monday. I'm not going to touch it, and here's why. Steve Spagnuolo on that Chiefs defense is the big wild card. He reminds me a lot of Bill Belichick in his prime when he could take away what you do best. Like, look at last week, Malik Neighbors. I know Neighbors is obviously a wide receiver, and you're asking me about a running back, but he takes away what they do best. Neighbors had 13 yards last week against the Chiefs because Spagnuolo honed in on Neighbors to stop him. You could see something similar this week. Etienne averaging 6.1 yards a carry. If I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I'm saying I'm going to do something similar to what I did in the Super Bowl. I'm going to make that quarterback beat me, and I'm going to shut down the running game. So with that in mind, I actually kind of like the Etienne unders a little better. I lean that way, but I'm not personally betting either side of it.
Totally fair, and you make a good case there. So I don't know if they do force Trevor Lawrence to make plays, maybe a dude like Brenton Strange, who I think across the board is leading this Jags team in the receiving department, where, we talked about Brian Thomas Jr., and we know that, some of those other wide receivers on that team haven't been up to scratch yet. So it could be interesting, especially in prop markets. Let's go to the Chiefs now. And they're 2-2. Did that Chiefs, win against the Ravens in week 4, Tony, convince you that they will be just fine this season? If you needed convincing at all, because I myself, I'm still not sure that I'm a believer yet in this 2025 Chiefs team.
Yeah, it was an impressive win. Patrick Mahomes had 4 touchdown passes. I think we do need to take that with a little grain of salt because the Ravens came into the game banged up, and then Roquan Smith and Marlon Humphrey both went down. So they were very depleted. But by the way, I was checking out over on oddshark.com Nick Holz' article about MVP odds. Mahomes went from 25-1 to 6.5-1 after Sunday. That was a nice little buy low spot if you saw it for the Chiefs there, or excuse me, for Mahomes there in the MVP odds. But getting back to your question here, I'd like to see some sort of balance from this Chiefs offense. I'd like to see their running game get going, and I'd feel a lot better about that offense as a whole. Like even last week in that impressive win against the Ravens, they only averaged 3.7 yards a carry against the Ravens defense that's not been very good against the run so far this season. So when I think about the Chiefs potentially making the playoffs, probably going on the road, right? Maybe to a place like Buffalo in the playoffs if they want to go to the Super Bowl, they're going to need to have a run game. And they haven't quite got their running game going so far this season. Pacheco and Hunt together are averaging under 4 yards a carry. They've got 1 combined rushing touchdown. If I'm a Chiefs fan, that's what I'm looking for, is I want to see this running game get going, because the rest, Mahomes, when the running game is going, we know what he can do, but they got to get that part going for sure.
Sign up at Underdog today, and if you play $5, you can get $100 in bonus funds when you sign up with the code UnderdogOS. That's UnderdogOS. Plus, they have a current deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds for new customers with their 50% deposit match. That's over at Underdog. Plus, Monday Night Football's gimme pick is Trevor Lawrence for passing and rushing yards. So new customers can use that gimme pick where you can choose higher or lower on up to 8 of your favorite players' stats. The more you pick, the more you could win. So sign up down below through the link in the description and use that promo code UnderdogOS. All right, Tony, let's get to your pick here. Jags, interesting. 3.5-point home dogs here. Like I mentioned, 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the spread here so far. Jags plus 145 on the money line. Chiefs come back at minus 175, total 46.5. Either side of that, minus 110. Tony, what do you like in this one?
So I bet Chiefs -3, minus 105. I got it late Sunday night. I input it over on oddshark.com in the expert pick section. The juice is going up a little bit, up to 118 now at that same book over at FanDuel. And by the time you guys are watching it, some of the threes might be gone. So maybe you start looking at the Chiefs money line at that point. But I do think this is going to be kind of a nice little breakout spot here for the Chiefs. I think the Jaguars defense is overrated, and I expect the Chiefs to put up some points.